There is a divine law that governs abundance, and when one aligns with that law, prosperity flows with ease and grace. Financial freedom is not achieved by striving or worrying. It is born from harmony, faith, and right thinking. The invisible substance of supply surrounds you, waiting for your recognition. Money is but a symbol of divine energy. And when your consciousness becomes one with that divine current, all that you need and desire begins to move toward you. The first pillar of financial freedom is faith in supply. You must believe that the universe is abundant, and that there is more than enough for everyone. Scarcity is an illusion created by fear. Abundance is a truth sustained by faith. When you affirm that all your needs are met by divine right, unseen forces begin to arrange every detail for your good. Your faith opens invisible doors, and what you once called impossible becomes your lived reality. The second pillar is gratitude in every season. Gratitude multiplies what it touches. When you give thanks for what you have, no matter how small, it expands. The grateful heart magnetizes prosperity, while the complaining spirit blocks it. Say often, "I am grateful for divine abundance that flows to me in perfect ways." Let gratitude become your song in both plenty and lack, for it transforms your energy into a beacon for blessings. The third pillar is right action. The universe rewards movement aligned with truth. When your work, giving, and intentions are guided by love and integrity, the results are lasting and multiplied. Right action means following the quiet inner guidance that says, "This is your step now." It may not always seem logical, but when inspired by intuition, it is always divinely directed. Your prosperity depends not on effort alone, but on alignment with that higher guidance which knows the perfect path. The fourth pillar is forgiveness and release. You cannot hold resentment and expect abundance to flow. Forgiveness clears the channels through which divine supply reaches you. Every grudge, every past disappointment, and every fear of lack must be released. Say within your heart, "I forgive everyone and everything that has ever blocked my good." In that moment of release, you create room for miracles. The universe cannot fill a closed hand, it must find an open heart. The fifth pillar is generosity of spirit. To give is to declare your faith in abundance. Giving breaks the spell of fear and proves to your subconscious that you live in a giving universe. Whether it is money, kindness, or encouragement, give freely and joyfully. Every act of giving plants a seed that must return multiplied. Your generosity becomes the rhythm of your prosperity. What you send forth in love always circles back in greater form. Financial freedom is not a number. It is a vibration, a consciousness. When you live by these 5 pillars, faith, gratitude, right action, forgiveness, and generosity, you align yourself with divine law. Then, wealth becomes your servant, not your master. Opportunities appear effortlessly, doors open where there were walls, and life becomes a symphony of abundance. You were never meant to struggle for your good. You were created to express divine prosperity. The invisible bank of the universe holds your perfect supply, waiting only for your recognition. Stand firm in truth, walk by faith, and live in gratitude, and you will see the pillars of financial freedom rise within you. Steady and eternal faith in divine supply opens the flow of unlimited abundance. Faith is not merely belief, it is a deep knowing, a quiet assurance that what you seek already exists in the unseen realm, waiting for your recognition. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between the spiritual and the material. It is the golden key that unlocks the storehouse of divine supply. When one walks by faith, they no longer look at the outer world for evidence, for faith itself is the evidence of things not yet seen. Faith is the soul's declaration that all good is already mine by divine right. Every person who has ever touched true prosperity did so through faith, not fear. Fear closes the door to abundance, while faith swings it wide open. Fear whispers that there is not enough, that you must struggle and fight for your share, that you are unworthy of the good you desire. Faith, on the other hand, gently assures you that the universe is overflowing with supply, that what belongs to you cannot be withheld, and that divine order governs all things perfectly. Faith does not chase, it magnetizes. It does not strive, it trusts. It does not worry, it knows. The moment you place your trust in divine supply, you step into a current that cannot fail to carry you toward your highest good. The mind must be trained to stay in faith, for it easily drifts toward fear when appearances contradict your desires. When bills pile up, when opportunities seem to vanish, when the outer world reflects lack, the test of faith begins. It is in those moments that you must stand firm in the unseen truth. Supply is unlimited, and you are one with that supply. The invisible substance of abundance is all around you, waiting to take form through your words, thoughts, and beliefs. Every thought of faith becomes a mold into which the divine substance flows. When you affirm, "All my needs are met by divine right," you are shaping the unseen into the seen. Faith requires discipline. You must guard your words and your emotions, for they either strengthen or weaken your connection to divine supply. Complaining, doubting, or speaking of lack sends out vibrations of scarcity that block the flow of abundance. Speaking words of assurance and praise keeps you in tune with the rhythm of divine order. Say often, "I walk in faith and not by sight." The substance of supply is ever present and ever flowing. These words are not mere affirmations. They are commands to the invisible realm, directing it to take form in your world. Many people say they have faith, yet they continue to act as if lack has power over them. True faith is not passive. It expresses itself through calm confidence and inspired action. When you are guided to move, give, or trust beyond logic, faith is leading you to your good. The divine law responds to your inner assurance, not to outer appearances. When you act from fear, you create delay. When you act from faith, you create demonstration. Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. To make room for one, you must release the other. Faith in divine supply means knowing that your source is not your job, your business, or any particular person. Those are merely channels through which the divine operates. The source is the unseen intelligence that governs the universe. When one channel closes, faith knows another will open. When one door shuts, faith expects a better one to appear. The one who understands this law never panics, for they know that divine supply is infinite and ever renewing. Your consciousness of supply determines your experience of supply. You cannot receive beyond your faith, for faith is the magnet that draws your good to you. There are those who pray for abundance yet hold doubt in their hearts. They speak of wanting prosperity but live in constant expectation of lack. The law of life gives according to your inner conviction, not your outer words. If your heart is filled with fear, you are affirming lack even when your lips speak faith. To cultivate true faith, you must cleanse the mind of every belief in limitation. Replace fear thoughts with faith thoughts. Replace worry with gratitude. Replace anxiety with calm assurance. Every time fear arises, answer it with the truth. Divine supply is my inheritance and it never fails. A faith grows through use. It is like a muscle that strengthens with practice. Begin by trusting divine supply in small matters, an unexpected need, a daily expense, a sudden challenge. As you see the law work, your faith expands. You begin to live with a quiet certainty that every need is met before it even arises. The universe moves in perfect timing, and faith aligns you with that timing. Many delay their good by impatience, demanding instant results. Faith does not rush. Faith knows that divine order is never late and never wrong. Faith transforms the way you see money and material things. You stop seeing them as scarce objects to grasp and start seeing them as expressions of spiritual energy. Money is not your master but your servant, responding to your consciousness. When you know that divine supply is infinite, you no longer fear loss, for what comes from the infinite cannot truly diminish. You begin to release freely, give joyfully, and receive gratefully. Your faith becomes your wealth, your invisible capital, your unshakable security. When faith rules your mind, you no longer measure your success by appearances. You know that even when outer circumstances seem still, the unseen forces are working on your behalf. What looks like delay is often divine preparation. What looks like lack is sometimes the clearing of the old to make room for the new. Faith sees beyond what is and beholds what shall be. It keeps its eyes fixed on the invisible abundance rather than the visible limitation. Faith speaks only of completion, never of lack. It says, "I already have what I asked for," even before any proof appears. That inner knowing is what calls forth manifestation. The moment you declare something as yours in faith, the universe begins to arrange every event, person, and circumstance necessary for its fulfillment. Faith is the invisible architect that draws the blueprint of your prosperity long before the foundation is laid. Each time you affirm divine supply, you are tuning yourself to the frequency of abundance. Each time you doubt, you tune out of that vibration. The law is exact, impartial, and unfailing. The more you live in faith, the more easily life provides. What once seemed miraculous becomes natural. Opportunities unfold as if by coincidence. Yet you know there is no coincidence in divine order. Everything flows perfectly because faith has prepared the way. Faith in divine supply also calls for joy. When you rejoice in expectation, you signal the universe that you already possess your good. Joy is magnetic, it attracts increase. Fear repels, faith attracts. The joyful heart becomes a magnet for miracles. You can only truly rejoice when you know that nothing can stand between you and your divine inheritance. Faith sings even before the dawn breaks, knowing that light is certain to come. The one who lives by faith walks in peace. They no longer question how or when their supply will appear. They simply know that it will, because it must. Divine law does not fail. It is as sure as gravity and as precise as the sunrise. When you live in faith, you live in harmony with that law. You stop striving to make things happen and begin allowing them to unfold. Your faith becomes your foundation, unshaken by appearances, untouched by delay, certain of its outcome. Faith is the secret power that opens the floodgates of abundance and keeps the flow eternal. Gratitude and right action align you with the rhythm of prosperity. Gratitude is the song of the soul that invites more light, more peace, and more abundance into your life. It is the sacred acknowledgement that everything you already have is part of a greater blessing unfolding. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into miracles, because when you recognize good in what already is, you open the channel for more good to flow. The heart that gives thanks is magnetic, it draws to itself more reasons to rejoice. Gratitude is not only a feeling, it is a spiritual law in motion. It declares to the universe, I see my blessings. I recognize divine order, and I trust that all things are working together for my highest good. The ungrateful mind lives in resistance, constantly focusing on what is missing rather than what is present. Resistance blocks the natural current of abundance, while gratitude dissolves it instantly. When you begin to thank life for what you already possess, no matter how small, it multiplies. The loaf becomes many, the seed becomes a garden, the small opportunity becomes a doorway to greater fortune. Every word of thanks releases an invisible power that rearranges circumstances, heals old patterns, and quickens new supply. Gratitude changes not only your outer world, but your inner vibration, making you a clear vessel through which prosperity can flow freely. To live in gratitude is to live in awareness of divine presence. You begin to see blessings where others see burdens, lessons where others see loss, and opportunities where others see endings. Gratitude sharpens your vision. It allows you to perceive the invisible good behind every situation. Even apparent setbacks hold hidden gifts for those who give thanks in faith. When you say, thank you, before you see results, you demonstrate trust in divine law. And that trust hastens the manifestation of your good, the moment you express gratitude for what you desire, as if it were already yours. You set into motion the spiritual energy that must bring it forth. Gratitude cannot exist alongside worry, for they occupy different vibrations. One says, I have all I need, while the other says, something is missing. The universe responds not to words, but to vibration. When your vibration is one of gratitude, it mirrors back abundance. When it is one of complaint, it mirrors back delay. Thus, to live in gratitude is to live in harmony with abundance. You no longer chase prosperity, you become prosperity. You no longer seek blessings, you recognize that you already live within them. Gratitude transforms your consciousness from lack to fulfillment, and that inner transformation changes everything around you. Alongside gratitude stands the law of right action. Right action is the visible expression of faith and gratitude. It means to move, speak, and give in alignment with divine guidance, not fear or haste. Right action is not about frantic activity, it is calm, deliberate, and inspired. It flows from inner certainty rather than outer pressure. When your actions arise from faith instead of anxiety, they carry the power of divine order and produce lasting results. Every act rooted in truth multiplies. Every step taken in obedience to intuition opens unseen doors. Right action begins within. It starts by aligning your thoughts, motives, and intentions with integrity. When your thoughts are pure and your motives are kind, your outer actions carry a vibration that attracts success. The law of life supports that which is in harmony with divine good. If you act with greed, manipulation, or fear, your results crumble. But when you act from honesty, service, and love, your results endure and expand. Right action is not always the easiest path, but it is always the most fruitful. It may ask you to be patient when you wish to rush, or to forgive when you wish to blame. Yet every act of rightness brings you closer to divine fulfillment. Right action also means following intuition. Divine guidance speaks softly within every heart, directing each person toward their perfect path. Sometimes the guidance may seem illogical. It may ask you to take a leap, give when you feel you cannot, trust when you see no proof. But that inner voice knows the way. When you act upon it, you activate divine timing. The doors that once seemed closed begin to open effortlessly. The right people appear, the right opportunities unfold, and prosperity flows with ease. Intuition is divine direction in motion, and when you obey it, your life becomes synchronized with the rhythm of the universe. There is no true prosperity without right action, because abundance is not merely about receiving, it is about flow. The ocean remains full because it gives to the rivers and receives from the rains. Likewise, your life must stay in circulation. When you act rightly, giving, sharing, serving, you keep yourself aligned with that divine circulation. The miser who clings to what he has, fearing loss, dries up the current of his own supply. The giver who releases freely in faith keeps the current moving, and is always replenished. Right action in giving affirms that the universe is your source, not the limited channels you see before you. Right action also means diligence in your work. Whatever task lies before you, do it with love, excellence, and faith. The smallest duty, done with devotion, becomes sacred. You cannot expect abundance while sowing carelessness or neglect. The law of cause and effect ensures that what you put forth returns to you multiplied. Every effort infused with integrity and enthusiasm builds a vibration that attracts greater success. When you work with joy and gratitude, even routine tasks become instruments of prosperity. There are moments when right action may appear as stillness. The world glorifies constant movement, but divine law values alignment over activity. Sometimes right action means waiting in faith, refusing to force what is not yet ready. This waiting is not passive. It is watchful, trusting, and full of quiet power. When you act too soon, you act in your own will. When you wait for divine timing, you act in harmony with the greater plan. Gratitude sustains you in this waiting, reminding you that even in stillness, life is working on your behalf. When gratitude and right action unite, they create an unstoppable current of prosperity. Gratitude tunes your heart to abundance, and right action expresses that abundance in form. Gratitude is the inner recognition, right action is the outer manifestation. Together, they form a complete circle. The giving and the receiving, the inner faith and the outer demonstration. One without the other is incomplete. Gratitude without action remains unexpressed potential. Action without gratitude becomes empty effort. But when both flow together, they create harmony between the spiritual and material planes. To live in this harmony is to live in ease. You no longer struggle to make things happen. You let things unfold. You take steps only when inspired, and you rest in gratitude when guided to pause. You trust that every action taken in truth will prosper, for divine law cannot fail. You give thanks for results before they appear, knowing that gratitude quickens manifestation. You speak blessings over your work, your finances, your relationships, and your purpose, infusing them with the energy of appreciation. That energy returns to you multiplied, for what you send forth in love must come back in kind. Gratitude and right action together dissolve fear, because they anchor you in divine certainty. You are no longer moved by outer conditions. You are guided from within. You no longer wonder how your needs will be met. You know that right action, performed with a grateful heart, will bring perfect supply. You no longer wait for something external to make you happy. You find joy in the act of living itself. Gratitude makes every step sacred, and right action turns every step into progress. The one who lives by these laws walks in rhythm with the music of abundance, and finds that all of life moves in perfect harmony with their highest good. Forgiveness and generosity unlock the true freedom of financial flow. Many people seek prosperity, yet unknowingly hold within themselves the very thoughts and emotions that block it. They pray for abundance, but keep the doors of their heart closed with resentment, bitterness, and unforgiveness. Forgiveness is the cleansing power that clears the path for divine supply to flow unobstructed. When you forgive, you release yourself from the heavy vibration of the past, and that release allows the current of prosperity to move freely once more. The universe cannot fill a vessel that is already full of pain, anger, or regret. Forgiveness empties that vessel so that new good may enter. It is not weakness to forgive, it is strength, for it takes faith to let go and trust that divine justice governs all things perfectly. Every grievance you hold, every memory you replay with bitterness, creates a wall between you and your good. The law of abundance cannot deliver through a closed heart. The moment you say, "I forgive," sincerely and completely, you dissolve the obstruction in the invisible realm. You do not forgive to excuse others, you forgive to free yourself. The person or situation that caused you pain was but an instrument for your growth. When you forgive, you step out of the vibration of the past and into the vibration of divine flow, where peace, prosperity, and joy abide. Forgiveness restores your connection to the source of all good, for that source is pure love, and love cannot dwell where hatred or resentment remain. Forgiveness must often begin with the self. Many people secretly resent themselves for past mistakes, for lost opportunities, or for choices they wish they had not made. They punish themselves unconsciously, believing they must suffer before they can prosper. This false belief creates delay and limitation. True prosperity requires inner freedom, and that freedom comes when you forgive yourself completely. Every soul has acted in ignorance at times, yet divine law always allows renewal. You are never bound by your past unless you choose to be. Speak within your heart, "I release myself from all guilt and all self-condemnation. I am free, cleansed, and worthy of all good." As you forgive yourself, you dissolve the subconscious barriers that block the flow of abundance, and divine supply begins to move through your life once again. Forgiveness is not a one-time act but a continual process. Each day may bring opportunities to release a new layer of hurt or disappointment. When you feel anger or irritation rising, pause and remind yourself that holding on will only harm you. Send forth a silent blessing instead. Each time you bless rather than curse, you purify your energy field. You lift yourself out of the vibration of lack and into the vibration of love. Love is the highest frequency in the universe, and all abundance flows through it. When your heart is filled with love, you become a clear channel through which divine prosperity can flow without interruption. Once forgiveness has cleared the path, generosity becomes the current that keeps the flow alive. Generosity is the visible expression of your faith in abundance. When you give freely and joyfully, you declare to the universe that you live in a giving, limitless world. Every act of giving sets in motion the law of return. Whatever you send out, money, time, kindness, encouragement, returns to you multiplied. Giving proves to your subconscious mind that you are not dependent on limited sources, but connected to infinite supply. The miserly soul lives in fear of loss, and that fear becomes its reality. The generous soul lives in faith, and that faith becomes its abundance. Generosity does not depend on the size of your gift, but on the spirit behind it. When you give from love, even the smallest offering becomes charged with divine power. You might give a kind word, a smile, a small donation, or a helping hand. Each carries energy that expands. The law is precise: what you give, you receive. If you give love, love returns. If you give joy, joy multiplies. If you give money with gratitude, it circulates back in greater form. When you withhold in fear, you stop the circulation of supply, and stagnation begins. Giving is the rhythm of life itself. It keeps the current of prosperity ever moving through you. Generosity is not limited to money. It includes generosity of spirit, being patient, forgiving, understanding, and compassionate. When you are generous with your words, your encouragement, and your time, you radiate energy that draws opportunities and blessings. People are naturally drawn to the generous soul because it mirrors the nature of divine abundance. Generosity opens hearts, builds bridges, and invites cooperation, which are essential ingredients for lasting prosperity. The one who gives without calculation receives without measure, for the universe loves a cheerful giver. Sometimes generosity requires giving when it seems least possible. That is the moment when faith is tested and strengthened. When you give in the face of fear, you prove your trust in divine supply, and the universe rushes to affirm that trust. You may find that unexpected sources open, that new doors appear, that help arrives in ways you could not have imagined. Giving in faith creates miracles, for it shifts your consciousness from limitation to infinite potential. Each act of generosity says, "I am not afraid. I am one with the infinite source." That declaration alone has power to transform your life. Forgiveness and generosity together create a sacred cycle. Forgiveness clears the channels, generosity keeps them flowing. One cleanses, the other circulates. When you forgive, you make space. When you give, you fill that space with new energy. The two are inseparable in the realm of spiritual prosperity. A heart that forgives but does not give remains empty. A heart that gives but does not forgive becomes burdened. The true rhythm of financial freedom requires both release and flow. Release through forgiveness and flow through generosity. To practice forgiveness and generosity is to live in alignment with divine law. The universe itself operates on these principles. The earth forgives the storms by renewing itself. The sun gives light without measure. The ocean releases and receives endlessly. All of nature exists in balance because it holds no grudges and fears no loss. You too are part of that same divine rhythm. When you imitate it through forgiveness and giving, you harmonize with the natural current of life. That harmony draws prosperity as effortlessly as the tide returns to the shore. There is great peace in living with an open heart. When you no longer carry resentment, you feel light. When you no longer fear lack, you feel free. That peace is the true wealth, and from it, material abundance naturally springs. The person who forgives easily and gives freely becomes untouchable by worry, because they know that divine law never fails. Whatever is given in love returns. Whatever is released in faith is restored in better form. The universe mirrors your inner state, and when that state is clear, loving, and generous, your outer world reflects it in overflowing good. Forgiveness and generosity are not acts you perform once in a while. They are ways of being. They become the language of your spirit, the rhythm of your life. You forgive as easily as breathing, and you give as naturally as the sun shines. In that state, you are always supported, for the flow of divine supply never stops moving through you. You cease to worry about where your next opportunity or blessing will come from, because you understand that as long as you keep the current flowing, it cannot fail to return. This is the essence of financial freedom. Not the possession of wealth, but the mastery of energy. When you forgive, you release blocked energy. When you give, you set that energy in motion. Life responds in kind, multiplying your good and expanding your peace. The more you practice these principles, the more effortless your prosperity becomes. You discover that true abundance is not something you chase, it is something you allow. Forgiveness opens the gate, generosity keeps it open, and through that open gate, divine supply flows endlessly, in perfect rhythm, without strain or limit.